A sunny afternoon in a quiet suburban neighborhood. 12-year-old Ethan Carter had just finished his homework and decided to take his German Shepherd, Duke, for a walk. Duke wasn't just a dog. He was Ethan's best friend, protector, and constant companion since he was a puppy. The two were inseparable, strolling the neighborhood and often stopping to greet friendly neighbors who always smiled at their bond. But on this fateful day, their peaceful routine would shatter in a way no one could have predicted. As Ethan and Duke turned a corner near the local park, a police car rolled up behind them. Ethan didn't think much of it at first. After all, he was just a kid walking his dog. But the officers inside the car seemed to see something different. Responding to a vague report about suspicious activity in the area, the officers pulled up alongside Ethan. The window rolled down, and one officer barked an order. "Stop right there." Ethan froze, gripping Duke's leash tighter. "Is there a problem?" he asked, his voice steady but laced with nervousness. The officers exited their vehicle, their hands resting on their holsters. One officer pointed at Duke. "Control your dog," he demanded. Duke, sensing the tension, stood protectively in front of Ethan, letting out a soft, alert bark. He wasn't aggressive, just a loyal dog doing what he was bred to do: protect his human. What happened next unfolded in a heart-stopping instant. Without warning, one of the officers drew his firearm and fired a single shot. The sound echoed through the quiet neighborhood as Duke collapsed to the ground. Ethan dropped to his knees beside his dog, tears streaming down his face. "What did you do?" he cried, his voice breaking with grief and disbelief. Neighbors began to emerge from their homes, some recording the scene on their phones. The officers, instead of offering an explanation or assistance, turned their attention to Ethan. "What are you doing in this neighborhood?" one officer demanded, as if Ethan didn't belong on the very streets he called home. "Where are your parents?" they asked, their tone accusatory and dismissive. What they didn't know was that Ethan's father, Thomas Carter, was no ordinary parent. Thomas was a senior FBI agent, a man well-versed in both the law and the accountability that comes with enforcing it. At that very moment, Thomas was only a few blocks away, arriving home from work. Hearing the commotion, he rushed to the scene. As he approached, Thomas froze for a moment, taking in the devastating sight of his son kneeling beside Duke's lifeless body, surrounded by officers and a growing crowd of onlookers. The grief and anger in Ethan's eyes spoke volumes, igniting a fire in Thomas that he knew he had to channel constructively. Thomas walked straight up to the officers, his FBI badge in hand. "What happened here?" he demanded, his voice calm but filled with an unmistakable authority that made the officers visibly uneasy. They stammered through an explanation, claiming that Duke had been acting aggressively. "He was a threat," one officer said, avoiding Thomas's piercing gaze. Thomas knelt beside Ethan, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "I'm here now, son," he said softly before rising to face the officers. "Do you realize what you've done?" he asked, his tone unyielding. "This was an innocent boy walking his dog. You shot the dog without cause. You traumatized my son, and you're about to answer for it." The weight of his words hung in the air, and the officers shifted uncomfortably. What followed was a swift series of actions that turned the spotlight on the officers and their conduct. Thomas immediately contacted his colleagues at the FBI, demanding a full investigation into the incident. Within hours, the officers' body camera footage was reviewed, and the truth became undeniable. Duke had not been a threat. The shooting was unjustified, and the officers' behavior was reckless and unprofessional. News of the incident spread like wildfire. National media picked up the story, sparking outrage and calls for accountability. For many, Ethan's story became a symbol of systemic issues within law enforcement, a tragic reminder of how quickly a situation can escalate when biases and poor judgment come into play. Thomas used his platform to advocate for change, speaking out in interviews and calling for stricter training protocols and accountability measures for law enforcement officers. In the weeks that followed, the officers involved were suspended and disciplinary actions were taken. The investigation brought to light several procedural failures, prompting reforms within the local police department. But for Ethan, no amount of justice could bring Duke back. The loss of his loyal companion left a void that couldn't be filled. Despite this, Thomas made it his mission to ensure that Ethan's voice was heard. Together, they turned their pain into a powerful message, advocating for systemic change to prevent similar incidents from happening to others. Ethan and Thomas began attending community meetings, speaking at events, and working with advocacy groups to promote accountability and justice within law enforcement. Their story resonated with people across the nation, inspiring many to join the call for meaningful reform. Through their efforts, they reminded everyone that even in the face of tragedy, strength and resilience could lead to positive change. This story isn't just about a family's loss. It's about the importance of standing up for what's right, holding those in power accountable, and ensuring that justice is more than just a word. Ethan and Thomas's journey serves as a poignant reminder that every voice matters and every action counts in the pursuit of justice and equality. What would you have done if you were in Thomas's shoes? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss stories that inspire and challenge us to do better.